Atheist Nomads, episode 182. News for
19th.
January 19, and interview with Dan Arel.
The podcast you're about to listen to includes cursing and talking about hoo-haws. Please be advised.
We are the Atheist Nomads, bringing you history, science, politics, religion, and interviews with leaders in the atheist community. Not all those who wander are lost. Welcome to the episode of Atheist Nomads. I am Dustin. Joining me as always is Wesley.
Hello, everybody.
And we're recording late, so Lauren's not with us. But we do have a guest today, Dan Arel, who is a author, podcaster, and from what I've seen, basically all over the internet. Dan, welcome to Atheist Nomads.
Hey, thank you for having me.
You should add all-around good guy.
Yeah, I try my best.
Aw.
So give us a brief rundown of all the various places on the internet that you are and what you do.
Sure. So most people most likely know me from my blog on the Pathos Network called Danthropology, and that's where I did all of my work with, or against, not with Ken Ham, but against Ken Ham's Ark Encounter, and trying to stop him from receiving tax breaks. And there now you'll currently find me pretty much complaining about politics and religion and more politics. And other than that, I write pretty regularly for The Hill, the politics news website. It's not that new, but it's kind of up and coming as far as being a go-to source now. And then I have a sort of regular column now at a newer website called The New Arab, and they cover news from the Middle East with more of a left perspective.
Okay.
And then now I have a podcast called Danthropology. No, they're pretty new. They used to be called Al Arabi, I believe, something along those lines, and they basically were started as an answer to Al Jazeera, who they thought was too closely aligned with the Muslim Brotherhood. Oh. And so they wanted something that stayed a bit more on the left and didn't really pander to the, extremist sympathizers.
Okay. And then what was the one you were going to say when Wesley cut you off?
No, I was going to say I also am I podcast now under the podcast Danthropology, so same as my blog. And other than that, you'll just find me yelling at people on Twitter and Facebook.
Very nice. And you've also authored a few books.
I have. My newest book is called The Secular Activist. It is a how-to guide for protecting the separation of church and state. It kind of it tells the whole story of me and Ken Ham and that whole battle from the start, from Bill Nye's debate with Ken Ham to right up until I went to Kentucky to protest them. And then throughout the whole book, it tells other people's stories about different activist causes they took up in their hometowns and how they accomplished them, how they won, or if they lost, why they lost, and what we can learn from it. And then it sort of goes through different styles of activism that people can find one that fits for them and how they can contribute to, kind of upholding secularism. And then my first book is Parenting Without God. And so it's a parenting book for people that don't believe in God, if the title didn't give it away.
Yeah, very nice, very nice. We're going to go ahead and continue the interview after we get through some news, and Dan is going to be joining us for that. So it's going to be fun. Let's go ahead and start off with an update on a story we covered a few months back with David and Colette Steffen, who were jailed for 4 months and given 3 months of house arrest, respectively. He got 4 months in jail. She got 3 months of house arrest for treating their toddler's meningitis with maple syrup. Now the dad is out of jail and has started a tour promoting alternative medicine and all the good that is done for their family.
By good, I mean, is the first words out of his mouth that, I was negligent and helped kill my child? I kind of doubt that.
No. It looks like he's going with how it's helped people in his family with mental illness.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. And I'm sure it's also to help sales for his alternative health store.
Yeah, he's got his own line. This is great. Have you heard about these guys, Dan?
I sure have. It's it's maddening. It's even hard. As a parent, it becomes incredibly difficult to even imagine. My child getting sick and being like, "Oh, we'll try something different." Like my kid gets the sniffles, and I want to get to the doctor and get actual medicine that's going to make him better quickly. Not, I'm going to go chop down a tree and rub bark on him for half an hour, and that should work.
I know, and this was no short-term thing. This child, he was sick for months.
Yeah, I mean, imagine watching your kid suffer and thinking like, "Oh, this must be working. Oh, it's going to work." And then when it doesn't, go on tour.
I don't even have a kid. I got a cat, and you know what? Just the same thing. I'm like, hey, he's rubbing his ears. I'm like, let's peek inside there. Let's see what's going on. Let's, do we have to take him to the doctor? We might just have to.
Well, and meningitis that's a terrible way to die.
Oh, goodness, yes.
And it's one of those things that is treatable. Well, depending on what case, what type of meningitis it is, a lot of them are very treatable. And not only did he kill his kid, but that's a highly, highly contagious illness.
They had a family friend that was a nurse come over, like, I don't know, a week or so before the kid died. And, she was saying, hey, probably should take him to the hospital.
And then to get a slap on the wrist for it.
Yeah.
And one that obviously didn't work because he's out still trying to take advantage of the gullible.
Yeah.
Well,
he's selling he's got a family story somehow.
A wife and 2 more kids.
Oh, man. This is a good example of why light sentences for assholes like this don't work.
Oh, no.
It encourages them.
Yeah, he became a martyr for a movement. Now, Big Pharma took him down.
Well, let's fucking martyr him. Let's give him a few years, at least a decade.
My go-to if you let your kid die is until, if you have any other children, until they're all at least 18, and if it was your only kid, then at least until that kid would have been 18. At a bare minimum. And what's one of the things that's really frustrating with this one is it's not like the normal cases we hear about here in the States with it just being batshit crazy faith healers. This was just alternative medicine types. The very dangerous end of the far left psychos. And also part of why I like to say that, when you start getting to the extremes on both sides, they're basically indistinguishable.
The funny thing about the far side of the left is that they don't like this either.
There's the 2 different directions the far side of the left goes. One of them is everything has to be natural, and anything else is some kind of a business conspiracy. And no, nature wants you to die. It is trying to kill you. It is natural for most children to die before adulthood. It is natural for most women to eventually die during childbirth. It is natural for you to have a life expectancy of 28.
Everything's downhill from there, I suppose.
I mean, it's true.
Fuck.
Oh, boy.
At least with the religion, when it's religion that's at fault, it tends to be on this really tiny fringe that everybody else hates, and those groups tend to not proselytize. The whole alternative medicine, or even more out there groups, they're all trying to get everybody else to try their supplements and their remedies and make them afraid of Big Pharma. Oh, it pisses me off.
It's a mindset that we need to change somehow. And that's the one thing, I don't remember if you remember during the election when Jill Stein sort of went off the anti-science cliff.
Oh, yeah.
And, she said some really crazy stuff, but one thing she said that I thought nailed it, but she then, kept going and she sort of stopped there, was that people have a very perceived fear of the medical industry. And it's because, at least in the US, we allow our medical industry to be a for-profit business. So people have a hard time thinking it can be a good when they're looking at the bottom line. And it's easy to fall into that conspiracy of, they don't want to cure cancer because they want the money to keep coming in.
Sure.
And it's hard to really say you don't have a reason to think that, because that's the way the rest of capitalism works.
Well, with the one exception
they want you to
being,
keep buying things.
Whatever company can figure out the, quote, cure for cancer, which isn't even a possibility, since cancer is not a disease, it is just a classification of diseases that's completely unique for each and every individual that has it. But if somebody could come up with the cure, that company would make so much money because they would have the patent and would get all of the business for everyone with cancer.
Yep.
They would make so much money.
Yeah, and that becomes one of the problems is people, they can't think in that direction. But it's the same as the creationists that tell us that, scientists are, have this conspiracy to keep evolution true. And they can't fathom the fact that the scientist that actually proves evolution not to be true would be catapulted into fame. He'd be rich. He'd be famous. I mean, he'd be, life-changing. But they can't get past that barrier. And I think it's the same exact thing here. They stop at the fundamental easy part. So it's a for-profit business. They don't want me to get better. And they can't think past that. And I think we have to change that mindset somehow. I do think part of it is, maybe having a not-for-profit healthcare system.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
When people think people don't want to profit off their health, that helps. But also, it's just kind of pushing them past that. Look, if we're looking at it in a for-profit position, actually curing you is much more profitable than people think. So I think that's a big. Yeah. We have to work on people's way of thinking, and I think that's where I think even the left and the right, that's the stumbling block they both run into, is that it becomes a conspiracy way too quickly, and they can't get over that hurdle. And once they get over that hurdle, it all makes sense.
And what sucks is there are actually cases where the conspiratorial thinking is accurate. The big pharmaceutical companies aren't putting any effort into developing new antibiotics because you can't make money off of antibiotics. It's too short term of a treatment that doesn't make you enough. And that's why it's universities that are doing all of the awesome research now on developing new antibiotics. And we keep seeing all the new erectile dysfunction medications and all the new hair growth medications and the diabetes medications and the high blood pressure medications and all of these medications for things that it's not cures, but you've got a huge customer pool that are going to be lifelong customers.
Sure, and the first two are just straight from Idiocracy anyways. I mean, I don't know if you've seen that, Dan.
I sure have.
Okay, good, thank you. Penile problems and hair, hair regrowth, that's just so topical and lame. God, get some, do some good research.
As someone who's losing their hair rapidly,
like you're saying, we're really gonna need better antibiotics pretty soon.
Yeah, but you can't make money off of antibiotics. Now, there is a lot of good pharmaceutical research going into things that does help people, like the heart medicines, the blood pressure medicines, the cholesterol medicines, antidepressants, all of those kinds of things, where there's tons of money to be made. But yeah, the money it makes it dirty. And the high prices they get to charge on those make it so dirty. And unfortunately, not the good kind of dirty.
Atheist Nomads is proudly brought to you by Archway Hosting. Check out their low-price, full-featured hosting solutions at archwayhosting.com. That's ARCHWAY hosting.com.
Hey, we're also brought to you by listeners just like you. Find out how you can become a patron at patreon.com/atheist nomads. That's patreon.com/atheist nomads.
All right. The Salt Lake City suburb of Taylorsville will be home to the latest after-school Satan Club. Vista Elementary School has been picked for its central location in the Salt Lake metro area, and because it already rents space to Child Evangelism Fellowship's Good News Club. In response, the district sent a letter to parents, not naming after-school Satan, but reminding parents that they rent space to private organizations, and those organizations aren't allowed to approach students. So far, parents have tried to remove at least one student from the school.
This is awesome. First of all, I've went out and friended and started talking to the head of the Satanic Temple of Salt Lake, which is Cellist Blythe, and we are definitely going to have her on the show pretty soon.
Very cool.
Yeah. I mean, after school Satan clubs are just really awesome little groups. We just had our first one up here in Tacoma, Portland before that. So yeah, this is going to take off, I think. I mean, granted that the last thing that we want is to have after school Satan clubs because, well, we don't want really any religiously affiliated clubs at all. But, you know,
that's kind of the point.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to have one, then fine, so be it. Let's have some actual clubs that, you know, kids can learn and grow, and, you know, I don't know. These are awesome clubs, the after school Satan, but, you know, I will repeat myself. It would be nice if we didn't have to have any of them.
Oh, so they paved the way for Young Skeptics. I don't know if you've heard of that program up in Rochester, New York.
No.
But a guy named Kevin Davis, years ago, so he actually predates After School Satan, had a Good News Club move into his kid's school. So he started Young Skeptics. Okay. And it's a science-based, so unlike, you know, at least using the name Satan, and then Good News Club, he has no religious ties whatsoever. They don't teach, talk, anything. It's literally science projects and, you know, learning about different methods and all this stuff. So they only focus on science. But I think something like After School Satan spreading sort of opens the door for a group like Young Skeptics come in and actually replace both.
Because that'd be awesome.
Then you have these two, you know, even though really, you know, After School Satan is the same exact thing as Young Skeptics. They're not teaching religion. They're not teaching any of that. They're doing critical thinking, science stuff. But a name like Young Skeptics, a bit softer, especially after you have an After School Satan in your school, and then they leave with Good News Club, and then Young Skeptics comes in. Boy, do they sound so much nicer.
Or even better, they just get the door closed on private groups like that altogether.
Yeah, and maybe just teach it in school the way that's supposed to.
But one of the things I think is really awesome is, you know, a group like Child Evangelism Fellowship isn't going to be just renting space. They are going to be trying to actively recruit students. And After School Satan forced the school district to put out the message, and reading from the letter, if your student is approached on campus by any private group or rental tenant, please contact your principal immediately.
I love them.
So the Satanists have gotten everybody aware that, oh yeah, if those evangelicals are trying to proselytize to the Mormon kids there in Salt Lake, that's not okay.
Man, we really need to get religions back to bickering and fighting amongst each other, amongst themselves.
Oh yeah. Yeah, we do.
those good old fashioned.
I don't know. It's not working out so well in Israel.
Yeah. Well, those good old fashioned American days of like pre 1980 when, before Reagan and all the religions were separate. You didn't just have that umbrella Christian.
Yeah. The moral majority definitely ruined that.
Yeah. So, getting a Mormon parent compelling into the principle about, hey, these evangelicals are trying to, get my kid into this club, maybe help get them kicked out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And drive that wedge between those two groups just a little bit.
Now, of course, one thing that's pretty awesome is not only did Blythe, who we've already talked about, get interviewed by the Salt Lake Tribune for this article that we're working off of, but they also talked to Moises Estevez, a spokesman from the Child Evangelism Fellowship, who said that the Satanists are very confused. He also said they're compelled by their despise of God and despise of anything Christian.
Sure.
And that it's a parody, a publicity stunt. Their strategy is to scare the daylights out of the school system.
Well,
yes.
Among other things, sure. I mean, definitely a parody.
Yeah, and they're just bringing to light that if you open the doors of the school to religion, that includes things that a lot of people aren't going to like.
Hey, that's great with me. It gives me a chuckle. Oh, boy. Silly Christians. Oh, boy.
And for our final news story, we got a fun one. Dutch porn star Kim Holland and director Peter Visser have apologized for filming a scene in the confessional corner of St. Joseph's Church to the director, who was identified as an atheist in the article. It was just an ordinary place. But once Father Jan van Norwegian was aware of what happened, the church was closed and will be reopened after a cleansing ceremony.
So, lots of bleach, I'm guessing. Cleansing. Yeah.
Holy water.
Yeah. There's stuff growing in that holy water, man. Just use bleach.
Oh, I'm guessing there will be a lot of actual cleaning, and then they will do the cleansing.
I just want to know what church member recognized their church in that porn. Like, somebody had to speak up. So, like, was it Brother Seymour over there who recognized the porn?
Oh, and I could just imagine how that'd go. He'd then go into the confessional and tell Father Jan, Father, I have sinned. I watched a porn, and there was a scene that was filmed right outside of the door of the confessional right here.
Yeah. See that spot over there? That's not Boston cream. That's real cream. Yeah.
But one thing that's kind of awesome here is, so this is in the Netherlands, and that is very much a post-religious country.
Yeah.
As much as just about any in Europe. And it makes sense that to the director, it's just an ordinary place. In Europe, for most people, churches are just where you go for weddings and funerals. They're not anything other than that.
Well, I don't know. I can tell you, if me and MJ ever get married, we're gonna have a party, and it'll be in like Sony's backyard. So yeah.
Well, that's because we're in the U.S. We everybody here knows what churches are actually for.
Performing rituals.
Oh, and I should also note that the article here from the Daily Star is not necessarily safe for work. There aren't quite any bare nipples in it, but still, you're going to get some funny looks if you pull this up at work.
Hashtag free the nipple. Seriously. What's that Insta account? Oh, yeah. There's an Instagram account called Genderless Nipples, fighting Instagram's nipple policy. You know, it's silly. Get over it, people.
And looking that up.
They're just close-ups of nipples, and I challenge you to tell which ones are men's and which ones are women's, and who really cares. You know, just get over it, peoples.
I could guess, but yeah, I can't definitely can't tell for sure. Yeah. Okay. All right, let's go ahead and take a break, and then we'll be back with the interview.
Definitely gives people that are staring over your shoulder something to look at when you're on a bus, though. Oh my God.
We love hearing from our listeners. You can email us at contact@atheistnomads.com, tweet us @atheistnomads, send us a message on our Facebook page at facebook.com/atheistnomads, or better yet, call us and leave us a message at 541-203-0666. We might even play it on the show. You can also help us out by leaving us a review on iTunes, Stitcher, or your podcast directory of choice. Okay, Dan. How did you get started with all of the writing?
It's kind of on accident. I, let's see, maybe almost 6 years ago now. Yeah, my son's almost 6. And right after he was born, I was staying home, and I went back to school and fell in love with writing there. And so, I don't know if you're familiar with the author and journalist for The Nation, Katha Pollitt.
No.
But she writes mostly about women's rights, abortion rights, things like that. She writes in The Nation. A lot of her pieces have to do with, abortion rights and laws happening around the country. But she was at the American Humanist Conference that was here in town, and she gave a talk about how to become a writer, for an audience, where I was just writing for my professor. And her talk was so good that I decided that day I was going to start writing publicly.
No shit.
And went home and found a blog called Emily Has Books that Emily Deedle used to run.
Oh, yeah.
And I connected with her and said, hey, I'd like to write for you. And she said, sure. And then, yeah, it kind of all took off from there. I went from writing for her to writing for the Dawkins Foundation.
Wow.
Nice.
And then, yeah, that was not a bad way to start. And then eventually wound up on Pathos after doing some time at Alternate and Salon and Huffington Post. And then, so I landed at Pathos. So that's pretty much where I do most of my stuff. And then, like I mentioned, during the intro, I went over to The Hill and the New A-Rap. So you'll catch me around there a lot too.
Nice.
Neither of us are parents, but hey, definitely not a secret. Dustin's working on it. You got some good tips for secular parenting? I mean, make it so we don't have to buy the book.
I thought you were going to ask any tips on having a kid.
Well, yeah, no, I was ready for that. I was gearing right up.
we know how to do that part.
Well, good. I hope so. But if you don't, there's no chapter in my book for that.
Oh. I heard that somebody just put out a video in a church that you could watch, for some tips.
The biggest point that my entire book makes, and that's not to say that everyone listening shouldn't go buy it right away, but it goes through different methods of, questioning your own, making your children question things, and then you questioning them back so that they have to give you an answer to things that they might think are true. So, when someone comes home and says, your kid comes home and says, oh, Billy from school wants me to go to church with him because, he believes in God. Oh, well, what do you think about that? Like, kind of, talk to them. Now, that doesn't mean you just let them go if they're not old enough to go to a church and really rationally think about what's being told to them. Then if they're too young, they're going to go sit there and go, wow, this is all true because this important person's telling me. Mm-hmm. But I like the method better of just, this is X, and then they don't have to think about it. That doesn't encourage them to think. That doesn't encourage them to, to find ways of reasoning on their own. And so, my son, who is just about to turn 6, I just mentioned, he's going through a whole phase of, how was this made? How was this made? How was this made? How did trees get made? And so I'm having that really fun time of like explaining evolution to him. But as he keeps questioning, now it's going to become, well, how do you think? Because after I've taught him enough, I want him to start understanding it and thinking about it and having to answer. Because I think the one difference between, an atheist parent and I don't want to say all Christian parents, but like a more fundamental Christian parent, is that we want our kids to learn how to think. I don't want to just teach them what to think. I was raised what to think. I went to a Christian school. They just stood in front of me and said, this is true, this is true, this is true. Mm-hmm. There was no questioning. You couldn't really ask questions about certain topics. And if you did, it was just to reaffirm, not to actually, raise your hand and be like, wait, this sounds like bullshit. It was to be like, raise your hand and be like, oh, how is that true? And then you listen to them to give you some bullshit answer. Oh, okay, great. Well, that doesn't raise smart kids. And so...
Well, I mean, if 80% of your answers is God did it,
yep. But
you're not going to learn very much.
And in Christian schools, if they're ever going to get to trying to encourage you to ask questions, that's not going to be till college. And even
only if you're an engineering major.
Yeah.
My theology professors encouraged questions. They also just all really, really hoped that we would come to the same answers that they did. And then we're shocked when I didn't.
That was kind of my mom. My mom was really let me explore everything when I started questioning religion, but because she was totally convinced I would just find my way back. And then I didn't. And then I took all my siblings with me.
Oh, nice.
Oh, man. So what about the old Santa Claus thing? I mean, how did you deal with that? Have you dealt with that?
Yeah, we do it. We don't go all in. Like, it's not a big, like, you're not going to get presents if kind of thing. It's more of a, hey, Santa's going to bring you presents. Hey, what do you want for Christmas? And then, like, I think this year, 2 of his gifts had Santa's name on it. So, like, it's not a big, like, for us, it's like a tradition. All of his friends at school have Santa. Yeah. I didn't want to take that away from him. And at the same time, I think that plays a pretty big lesson in, that sort of thought process. Like, he's already questioned Rudolph. Because he just, he saw the cartoon, he saw the claymation thing on TV, and it was like, I was putting him to sleep on Christmas Eve, I think it was. I said something, and he's like, yeah, but Rudolph's not real, right? Like, even that seems like too much for him. You know what I mean? So, I think, and he has too many questions about Santa, too. Like, he's inquisitive. Like, he's the kind of kid that's going to figure it out too quickly. But I think that's a great, when he finally is old enough where I think, like, okay, if I tell him and he tells his friends it's not going to get in the world, if you look at it before then.
He's going to make a kid cry at school. Watch.
Oh, when I found out, I ran to school and told everybody. Real. It's awful. My dad's like, don't tell anybody.
Oh, when I found out, I was 5 and pissed at my siblings for ruining it for me. They were all much older, and to this day, they all deny being the one that said it.
Nice.
Yeah, my dad told me I asked him so many times that he got sick of answering, so he just told me.
Do you think you'll eventually get to that point, or are you just going to keep answering the questions or guiding further questioning?
I'll get to the point, because there does come. I have a few friends that have kids that are like, and like they're like 10 or so, and they're still, they're still pushing it. They're still like coming up with excuses.
Wow.
At that point, like, it's time to give it up.
Whoa.
And so if he hasn't figured it out, I mean, I think I was like 7 or 8. Like, I wasn't very old when I figured it out. So I don't think I'll let it go till 10. So I think at a certain point, I think they're also they want it to be true. So even they try to rationalize it. But while they're asking questions, I think to a degree, I'll keep trying to ask him questions back to see if he can, like, well, no, nothing. I've never seen a flying reindeer, because he has like 10 reindeer and they don't fly. But again, at a certain point, you just have to sort of say, okay, guess what?
Mm-hmm.
You can't go to college believing this.
So what prompted you to write the book?
My grandparents played a pretty big role in it, because they're very fundamentalist. And And when me and my wife announced we're having our first kid, they got my grandmother, are you going to baptize him? I said, no, but what if? And I said, so do I go through every single birthing ritual from every single religion to cover my bases here? And so like that question, then they had other questions. And then as I was, coming up with answers to them, I was at that point, I was actually writing for Emily Has Books. And she said, do a couple blog posts about it. And I said, sure. So I did, I think 2 separate blog posts about parenting, and they got really good feedback on her site. And they were like some of the most popular pieces she got. And she was the first person to say, you should do a book. And I mean, I'm like 6 pieces into ever writing articles. And so I was like, no. But the idea kind of brewed for a while, and I sat on it for a bit, and then I saw some other people publishing books that were even lesser known than I was. And so I was like, wait, like they're publishing books and they're doing okay, and why can't I? And so I said, screw it, and did it.
Nice. Very nice.
Ain't bad at all.
All right, so your second book, you told us a bit about it at the beginning. So what's your advice? Let's start with the first one of tying the two together. What's your advice for a parent trying to get into activism?
Oh, good job. Honestly, time. It's know your limitations and don't take on too much just because you want to be more involved. So you have to find your limit. I can't devote 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, even though this is actually what I do full time, because I still have parenting responsibilities. I coach youth hockey. I, want to spend time with my family and things like that. So you have to pick your battles sometimes, or at least get into a battle and know that you can't, let it consume you. But also, if you work full time in a job, you have kids, your family time is limited. So it becomes picking the kind of activism that you can contribute the most to. So that might be just online. You might just be sharing articles and trying to get people involved in a cause. And so, hey, pay attention to what so-and-so is doing. Maybe you're telling them to call their senator. Maybe you're saying, go march downtown if you're free on this day. Maybe, something like that. But you're just trying to be involved some way. That's activism still. I get really bummed out when I do hear people say, oh, you're a Facebook activist. Cool. Great. You're an activist. You're doing something. Mm-hmm. Be a Facebook activist if that's what you can do. Maybe you're an introvert and you can't go argue with people face to face. It's just not for you. Then great. Contribute in a way that you can. At Twitter, Facebook, some people are better at getting in people's faces and yelling and screaming and going and testifying in front of city councils and whatnot. But, for the parent, find what works. Find the causes you care about. And the funny thing is, the causes you care about might not even be about parenting. Don't feel like you have to take up every cause because you're a parent now. Like, I care deeply about things related to parenting, but some of my activism has nothing to do with kids. Because, I'm multi-layer. I'm like an onion. Being a parent isn't everything about me. It's a big, giant, important part of my life. But, I care about other things that I think all kind of wrap back in. I care about healthcare, which wraps back into kids. I care about, education and higher education. That ends up wrapping back into kids. But, you just find your balance. Don't overexert yourself, but don't feel like you can't do anything, because you can, even if it's only 10 minutes a month that you can contribute to sharing or speaking up. That's 10 minutes that the world didn't have before.
Yeah. I definitely know that if I were to try to raise a kid in Idaho, I would definitely be running for office. There is no way I would be able to handle it and not try to actively make things better.
Yeah, I'm doing it in San Diego, and that crosses my mind constantly. That's one of the places where tattoos might hinder me a little bit.
Really? I don't know. San Diego, it might help.
No, you'd be surprised. We're very conservative here.
And people think Idaho very conservative, but Boise's pretty liberal.
Boise, I've been to Boise. It's pretty liberal. It's pretty nice.
Yeah.
If you don't mind, what part of San Diego?
What's that?
If you don't mind, what part of San Diego?
It's near SDSU.
Okay.
I don't know if you're familiar with that area, but that's about as close as I'll go on the radio.
I used to go down to San Diego to, TDY, work on boats down there at North Island.
Oh, yeah.
But, I always stayed way up north, away from all the loud people down on the waterfront.
Yeah. But with kids, you can't live downtown, so.
And as a kid, we went down to Oceanside every year for spring break.
Hey, the government was paying. I was staying up in Del Mar. So.
Well, Del Mar's not a bad area to stay, though.
No. Especially when it's free.
Oh, yeah. I can't afford to stay there.
I know. I sure as hell can't. Oh, boy.
All right. Well, let's talk about your story a bit.
Oh, yeah.
Sure.
Hey, so definitely weren't born an atheist. What was your flavor of Christian?
I was raised Pentecostal. So not the snake handling Pentecostal, but speaking in tongues, dancing, running up and down the aisle, loud, boisterous preachers, lots of singing and music. They have a full rock band. It was a big production, but
was it independent
I was a member
or part of a denomination?
Assembly of God.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, there was. And then we did. I was a member of the Royal Rangers, which is the Assembly of God's own Boy Scouts. So I think Boy Scouts, but even more religious. And that's where they taught us, listening to mainstream rock music was bad, and they introduced us to bands like Petra that were Christian rock bands. Which I had the pleasure of seeing live once with my mom.
Oh, nice.
But yeah, I oftentimes call it fundamentalist light, because at least this church, they had some pretty crazy beliefs, but they weren't way out there. It was pretty easy for me to get out of it, and with little resistance. And I think part of that was probably my parents as well, because my dad never believed, but kind of just let my mom, who did, kind of do her thing. So she wanted us in church. She wanted us in all these programs. My dad was just like, yeah, whatever. But I think with that, it was easier at home to question things. At home, I could say Noah's Ark seems like a weird story. My mom would be like, well, it's not true.
Oh.
It's a story. It's in the Bible because it's a story about it. She would, explain some, however moral killing the entire population can be. She would try to tell some story behind it. Man's sin and God needed to start over. But without that actually being true. Where I'd go to this church and they'd be like, well, yeah, of course it's true. So I think I had a mixture. So my upbringing, like I said, it's like fundamentalist light, where the church was telling me one thing, but at home they're like, nah, just believe what you like.
Nice.
Cool.
Yeah, I was always the annoying kid kind of asking weird questions like that too, so it's kind of cool.
Yeah, I would show up to Royal Rangers and I was like, oh, have you guys heard of the band AC/DC? And they'd be like, oh boy. I'm like, I heard the song called Money Talks and it's changed my life. And they'd be like, oh, that song is about Satan and the evil of money. And I'm like, yep, that's why it's called Money Talks.
Oh.
I'm 8 and I figured that out.
Nice.
So, about what age did you start departing the Assembly of God?
I think I was probably around 12 when I just didn't want to go to church anymore. It really had nothing to do with religion whatsoever. It had to do with wanting to hang out with my friends all the time on Sundays and, making my weekends the most enjoyable and not going. And so I asked my mom if I could stop, and she said, I'll let you decide what the right thing to do is. And the right thing was not to go to church anymore.
Yeah.
So I stopped, and they were fine. I think I went on Christmas every year. Maybe
Sure.
Easter, when she'd even make my dad go kind of deal. But I started...
Oh, so your dad wasn't going to church?
No, my dad never went to church. So my dad worked nights. So he worked overnight. And so he was on like a 4-day off, 4-day on schedule. So,
oh, damn.
like for 4 days straight out of the week, we wouldn't even see him because he'd come home early morning, go to sleep, wake up and go to work. And then he'd have 4 days off and we'd see him then. But he wasn't about to waste it at church when he was off on a Sunday. And so it became, I didn't want to go. They say fine. And then I just started kind of wondering, probably around 13 or so, like where God was during certain situations happening, either in like my family's life or at home. So, like I have an alcoholic uncle, and my grandmother, his mom would cry all the time about it and pray that he'd get better, and he never did. And so I didn't necessarily stop believing, but I started thinking like, wait, I think I'm not, worshiping the right God, or like we're not doing something's off. Because one thing about my upbringing is I was never told atheists existed. It was Christians, Jews, and Satan worshippers. That was it. Like, I didn't even know about Muslims.
And Muslims fell under Satan worshippers.
Probably. But, honestly, like, they didn't exist in my world. And so, I didn't want to worship Satan. That didn't seem like a logical thing to do. But I was like, maybe we're part of the wrong religion, and that's why things aren't changing for us. We're doing it wrong. And I asked my mom to buy me some books on different kinds of versions of Christianity, other things, and she was really cool with doing it. And I bought Dianetics by L. Ron Hubbard. I don't know if you've ever read that, but dear God, it's awful. But reading those sort of planted that seed of like, none of these are either drastically different or they're so far-fetched that they don't make sense. And so I was at this really weird point in my life. And I don't know if you guys are familiar with youth groups, but teens get together and they go do like church things. And I started playing high school hockey, and our goalie was a really good friend of mine, and he was a big member of his youth group. And they had all these free tickets to go to a Boston Bruins hockey game. And so we did it's an overnight thing. And so we went to the Bruins game, and then we went to a church, and they were doing this whole speaking in tongues thing with the teens and teaching us how to speak in tongues to connect with God. And it was all these kids all in a big hurdle, and they're praying, and also all these kids start speaking in tongues. And I'm trying so hard, begging for it to come to me and to work, because it's working for everybody else. And I'm thinking in my head, I need to start faking it, or they're going to notice. But then I couldn't fake it because I felt like they know I was faking. And so I just panicked. But that was the moment where that real seed was planted, where, maybe there's nothing there. I felt nothing. And then that's when I asked my mom to buy me the Satanic Bible. And I convinced her, I was curious. And she was like, all right, fine. And she actually agreed. And she bought it for me. Wow. And the first couple of pages, they say that they're atheists. They don't believe in God. They don't believe in Satan. And they explain why they use the metaphor and why it's important. And literally at that moment, I was like, those kids at the youth group are faking, and everything about why I can't piece together why things aren't going the way they're supposed to go completely makes sense. It all fell into place, and I was like, that's that. And then I finished that book and was like, wow, these guys are a bunch of selfish assholes. Satanism's not for me. But not believing in God sure is.
And what age were you at that point?
I was probably 16 or 17.
Okay.
I was really into Marilyn Manson at the time. And so that was probably between the ages of 14 and 17.
All right. Well, what do you have to plug?
Well, I think, most importantly, and I've been doing this today on social media too. We're coming up. We're only a few days away. I don't know when this episode airs, but
Thursday.
So
yeah, day before.
So tomorrow, everything changes. And so, people that are looking for ways to get active, ways to be involved, I hate to say it, but buy my book. I love to say it, buy my book. Because I really think I strive to put together a list and a how-to of how you can get involved. And it doesn't necessarily have to be secular activism, because I think really most activism in the end of day is secular. But, if you're looking to just be politically involved, these same methods, these same tactics, and these same different styles of activism apply completely across the board. So, if you are sitting there and you just don't know how to get involved, pick up the secular activist and find your way, find something that connects with you, because we're going to need as many voices and as many people for the next, 4 years at least, working, double time. But we're going to be busy, but we need everyone involved. So grab a book, read it. It's very short. I kept it short so that you can read it really quick and get to work. So grab it and then let's get out there together.
I should add that you were talking about the inauguration coming, tomorrow, as of the release. Paddy Power, which is a Irish betting website, has already put 4-1 odds on Trump getting impeached within the first 6 months of his presidency.
I saw that.
So
I can't quite sit on that, just because I can't imagine the Republicans wanting to impeach their own president because of how that looks.
Sure.
But I think with Pence being lined up, they could see a benefit to it. So I could see it happening. But at the same time, Trump goes or not, Pence is just worse.
Yeah.
That was my whole point. I'm like, once Trump's out there, then comes Pence, and he is way worse.
And then
because
Ryan's not much better. Even better at all.
I think
what you've got is you've got Trump.
Republicans would be happy with Pence, I think.
They would love to have Pence.
Yeah. So there's your reason to get into activism. Trump is bad. Pence will be worse.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. No matter how you slice it, it's going to be a rough time. And so we just need people to be involved in any way, shape, or form.
All right. So your book and, of course, Danthropology.
Yeah, head to danthropology.com. So just think anthropology, put a D in front of it. Clever, I know, I get it.
Yeah.
It's hilarious. It's the best joke I've ever come up with. It's and danthropology.com. That you can find my podcast there. I try to link to all my other writing from over there, and then follow me on Twitter at Dan Arel.
All right, and I'll have links in the show notes at atheistnomads.com/182.
Sweet.
Dan, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure.
Yeah, thanks, man.
All right, we're going to take a break, and then we'll be back with feedback and supporters.
Oh, boy. If you like the show, consider giving us some financial support. We make it really easy with one-time donations, or to support us on a per-episode, monthly, or even annual basis using PayPal or Patreon. Find out more at atheistnomads.com. Use the links on the right side of the page. $1 an episode is all we ask. Please, think of the kittens.
From @Holy Kool-Aid on Twitter, at Atheist Nomads. Do you guys actually travel, or where does the nomad part come from?
Well, you give your part and I'll give mine.
Yes, so we did a little bit of an exchange on Twitter, and Holy Kool-Aid is a atheist YouTuber who is traveling across Asia and was hoping that we would cross paths.
Shit.
So I moved a lot, and when I left Michigan, I went to Jordan for 6 weeks, got to know Arab culture quite a bit, and really started to, fell in love with the Bedouin nomads. Then went to Mexico for 3 weeks, then went back to Michigan for 3 weeks, and then basically lived out of a car for about 6 weeks while I looked for work. And the first job I got took me to Tacoma, where I was supposed to be there for anywhere from 9 months to a year and a half. It ended up being about a year and a half. Then I moved again, and then I was there for less than a year and a half, and then I moved again. And when I created the handle DW Nomad, I was in Tacoma getting itchy to travel or move because I'd been in the same place for too long. And, well, now I've lived in Boise for 6.5 years.
Wow.
So Atheist Nomads is still better sounding than the Settled Atheists.
Yeah, I always looked at nomads as like our path that we've taken through life. You know, lots of wandering.
Mm-hmm.
But
and our show style kind of wanders a bit too.
Yeah, that's totally true. But also, you know, the whole Tolkien angle, because I just fucking love that quote.
Yeah,
not all who wander are lost. So yeah, there's a bit of that too. But, you know, if you ever come through Seattle, let me know.
Yeah.
You know, SeaTac's quite the hub. So, you know, maybe.
All right. And we got a voicemail from Travis.
Oh, hey.
Hey, guys. Travis over here in Oklahoma. Wanted to say thank you so much for the patron feed option. I am enjoying the ever-loving fuck out of the extras. It's a beautiful thing.
Aww.
And, well, I just figured I'd share this with you. Glory hole, motherfuckers.
Oh,
okay. Glory hole, wrong
show, fucker. That's funny.
Yeah,
I still rub my nipple and salute to you.
The patron only feed. Yeah, that's something that has been up for a few months now, I think. And most weeks we have an extra story or two, or we have some extra discussion that goes into the patron only feed.